Layovers, your weekly dose of aviation innovation.
Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome aboard from the flight deck. This is Paul Papadimitriou.
Hello everybody, this is Alex Hunter.
We'll be your pilots for this show about the news, the startups and the technologies defining the modern air travel experience.
Our flight time today, 1 hour and 20 minutes, and we expect an on-time arrival. Coming up on this flight, a proposed worldwide unique size carry-on doesn't seem to fit, but a smart luggage with 4G Wi-Fi just might. Emirates goes to Washington whilst US airlines are under investigation for price fixing. London Heathrow might get its third runway, but Terminal 1 is no more. Jet2 proposes unruly passengers banned for life, though chewing gum might be banned first. Iron Man is in a safety video. Will he have to switch his Monarch Apple Watch app?
As we reach our cruising altitude, I'm going to turn off the fasten seatbelt sign for you. Now, ladies and gentlemen, sit back, relax, and let's turn on those noise-cancelling headphones.
Flight 18 to Athens. Hi, Alex.
Hi, Athens.
Yeah, well,
timely, appropriate.
Obviously, first of all, I had to. It's one of my passports with the origin of my dad. And obviously, with all the news, everybody asks me what's going on in Greece. I'm not going to address that at all because I'm refraining myself from having any opinion online about it. No politics, as they say. But I get it. Why not? Athens.
Yeah, timely, very appropriate.
Exactly, very timely. We'll get to there. There will be a few news about Greece throughout the show as well. But we have a lot of sagas to talk about this week. First one, our continuing saga that appears in every single episode, which is the 4 big American airlines versus the 3 Middle Eastern airlines. Haha. Have you seen what happened? So what happened is that Sir Tim Clark, the CEO and chairman of Emirates, went to Washington, D.C., and had a meeting with officials there and also did a press event, which was on YouTube. It's pretty well done, actually. I'll put the links on. Have you watched an hour and a half or not?
I have not watched an hour and a half, but there's been a lot of good analysis and picked up some of the more pithy comments that he made. It was solid. It was like a deposition almost. I mean, but of their own creation.
By their own creation, yeah. They actually went all in. So we had, of course, we mentioned that debate over and over and over again, and we don't want to bore our audience with pointing the obvious again and again. But for the first time, actually, Emirates now has a dedicated page on its website when it has all the different links to the reports, including the new one, which is a 130 pages report or something that they just put out. You have everything there, but even if you don't want to read through all this, you have smaller bits on that webpage. You have everything you want to know about Emirates' position in that debate. It's really well done, but more importantly, it shows that Emirates is really getting all in.
Yeah, they're really putting a lot of energy and time and resource. I mean, I think a couple of 3 or 4 episodes ago, you mentioned that they had an in-flight audio channel,
correct,
almost dedicated to this very issue. So they're not pulling any punches, and I think that they're going to try and outspend the American Airlines, which is their MO anyway.
Yeah, well, to a certain extent, I mean, again, I want to make something clear because I had a reaction from a friend of mine on Facebook like a week or 2 ago, which was about the fact that he's called Eric, which was about, are we not too much in favor of Emirates here in this show? And I want to make clear, I mean, you may maybe potentially have had to listen to us throughout the whole season, which you can do. That will augment the number of views we're having on this show, but we just want a fair debate. And what I really don't like is sometimes it looks like the debate is, on one side you have the rich oil airline and versus the poor US ones, or you have the free market versus subsidies. And it's much more muddled than that. In that report, and also what he said on the video on that press event, he shows that Sir Tim Clark shows that the U.S. airlines have also had like a lot of subsidies, a lot of state aid, a lot of distortion to the market. This is exactly what we're trying to say here. We're not vouching. Obviously, have a small more appreciation for what Emirates does currently, but we just want to have a fair debate.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that, and I also think there's an element of we want what's best for the passenger. base in general. And I think if you compare, as we always do, the product offerings from the two parties, then I am going to skew towards the one that provides the best product, and that's the Middle Eastern Airlines at the moment. I won't even get into how they got there, where their money came from to create that product. That's kind of the core of this argument, but I think there's still more to come out. The U.S. has pushed back any official conversation on this for at least another couple of months. So you're going to be hearing about it for another couple of months.
Yeah, actually, there's one quote out of all the quotes that have been appeared, and we won't go through all of them, but that I liked about Sir Tim Clark. He said, if you start on this path of interdicting open skies, it will never end. Once it starts with us, what are you going to do with the Chinese carrier?
Yeah.
I mean, it's...
Who are Legion.
Yeah, exactly. This is where it's going, and we'll come to that a little bit later. A few news about Emirates as well. They've introduced an A380 now to Düsseldorf, so they're going into Lufthansa territory. And they've also had a one-shot A380 to Prague. Because I'd sent you offline a message about, they're introducing the A380 to Prague. Actually, it was just a one-off to celebrate the 5th anniversary of their route there. But they are adding capacity, even at Düsseldorf, which is pretty...
Düsseldorf, all of a sudden, has become very fashionable for airlines to start service.
Yeah.
Cathay just started. Is there something special about Düsseldorf that I'm missing?
No,
I don't know about?
I've never been there yet.
Neither have I.
But if you remember when we talked about Lufthansa, we said that the new Lufthansa strategy is to concentrate the premium product in Frankfurt and Munich. So maybe that leaves the door open to Düsseldorf that won't have as many premium product of Lufthansa. So it opens the competitions up, maybe.
Quite possibly. It's just interesting that all of a sudden there's this flock of new airlines that are initiating service out of Düsseldorf.
Yeah, absolutely. Also, you had someone sending you in that debate yet. You had someone sending you a picture of the Delta in-flight magazine, right?
Yes. Thank you to Greg Annandale, a friend and longtime listener and supporter of the show, for sending me a image of the Delta in-flight magazine that was an open letter from Richard Anderson, the CEO, about this whole debate. And I replied to him saying he's delusional. Not Greg. Greg's not delusional. At least I don't think so anyway. But Richard Anderson, because it's full of these dangerously inaccurate and inflammatory statements like, and I quote, Etihad, Emirates, and Qatar Airways are 3 airlines created, supported, and owned by their countries, and their main goal is to develop their national economies. That's quite a inflammatory comment to make. And as a result, these airlines are running their businesses not according to the fiduciary responsibilities that come with being governed by the laws of supply and demand. What nonsense. But with a budget that has been propped up by more than 42 billion, blah, 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 same old argument. And it's staggering piece of PR, a really, really interesting and aggressive stance.
Yeah, again, the battle is eating up to a certain extent. I mean, it's not eating up maybe for people like you and me because you've been following this, but I guess now it's kind of overflowing to the general public, who might have been unaware of this big debate up to the last maybe 5-6 weeks, and now it's, you get into a flight and you hear about this. You get into Emirates and you hear about the comments on the in-flight channel, and you open the Delta in-flight magazine and you get this. So it's getting more and more press. I guess the more general public is becoming aware of this debate.
Yeah, and I think I'd like to see it resolved. It's getting a little bit tiresome now. The debates are getting petty. I want someone to step in and do something. Even if it is the U.S. government saying there's an issue here that we need to resolve, or there's no issue, shut up.
Actually, on June 30th, the Twitter channel of Emirates, at Emirates, for the first time kind of broke character and started live tweeting what Tim Clark was doing during the press event. But notably, they've also retweeted some other tweets, including from the U.S. Travel Association. And you can read another executive summary. I'll put the link as well in the show notes. So to show once more that the sides is not the U.S. versus the Middle East, but you have airports in the U.S. I think Las Vegas Airport, Orlando, Dallas. Of course, you have companies like FedEx, JetBlue as well are siding for open skies, are siding against the major carriers in the U.S. Also, IAG. Ironically enough, because they're very much a competitor of IAG is a parent company of BA. So, again, but the biggest irony in all this, in that we've seen that apparently the Department of Justice is opening an investigation for collusion amongst the carriers in the U.S. So
the four biggest U.S. airlines. That's not good. That's not good. And I've read a few. So it's the 4+ Southwest Airlines, and they've been accused of colluding on prices. And let's be clear up front. This is not a new thing. This is not the first time this has ever happened. Find me a big airline, and I will also find you an airline that has been slapped on the wrist for price fixing. It's happened to almost every major airline. But this is interesting timing.
Yes, absolutely.
That the Department of... This has like a House of Cards plot line written all over it. but so I don't know what's going to come of it. I've read some really interesting analysis saying that while it may seem obvious on the face of it, it's going to be quite difficult for them to prove anything.
Yeah.
And it's going to be a lengthy process. But it might just be another distraction for the U.S. majors at a pretty critical time of the year, operationally because it's summer, and also because of this ongoing and resource-consuming debate.
Well, we've seen that there's been consolidation, obviously, in the U.S. market, and now so American, Delta, Southwest, and United, if you add them, the four of them, have more than 80% of the seats in the U.S. So that's a lot. This is why I think it's kind of the beast is waking up again and says, okay, hold on here, you could be actually doing flight price gouging. I mean, we'll see where it goes, but it's potentially true.
It's kind of interesting to me, this whole thing, and I've wondered about this for years and years. The U.S. airlines were deregulated in the 70s to stop this type of thing, and yet we've had such a massive amount of consolidation in the 3 decades following that we're getting back to the point now where such a large percentage of available seats is owned by such a small group of airlines that there might have to be some kind of re-regulation to figure out and prevent stuff like this. So I don't think we've heard the end of this.
No, not at all.
Even though, like I say, it's actually alarmingly common.
Exactly. So moving on, because we'll follow that piece of news, like these two pieces of news actually for a long time more. Another saga that drives us back here in the UK, where we're both located, Alex and I. It's the airport commission has finally made a choice for a new runway in London.
Amazing. Not amazing that they chose Heathrow. That was pretty predictable. But they have finally said that a new runway at Heathrow is the most sensible option, and have said it will generate £147 billion in economic growth and create 70,000 jobs by 2050. But there are so many buts and ifs and maybes and how abouts and blah, blah, blahs that this is going to go on and on and on and on. We can't even build a high-speed rail link between the UK's two biggest cities. Building something of this magnitude is going to be... There's going to be appeals. There's going to be all kinds of bureaucracy that gets in the way of anything like this.
Yeah. So to make, just for those who don't know, so the Airport Commission was set up a few years ago. There's been an ongoing debate about there's not enough capacity in London. Cities like Paris, Charles de Gaulle, and Amsterdam with Schiphol are actually getting ahead in terms of the number of flights, the number of cities they can link to. So the choice was either they built a second runway at Gatwick, which is more in the south, or that they make a longer runway at Heathrow, which would allow at the same time takeoffs and landings on a single runway that was called the Heathrow Hub, or a third runway, which would be north of the two existing runways, which is the position they took. Again, this Airport Commission doesn't have any power. It just gives what's their recommendation. Yeah. Now it has to go through Parliament. We already know that the Mayor of London, Boris Johnson, is completely opposed to any new runway. So he already plays it in all the media here in the UK. He
was a big proponent of a brand new airport in the Thames estuary, which would be cool, but is totally unfeasible. I mean,
like you just said, I mean, we don't even have a rail link to Manchester. We don't even have. I mean, there's there's no way there's going to be enough money or enough political will to build a new airport.
No,
so we have to do what we have, which is sad when you think of it. But you look at the new airport at Istanbul, which basically they decided 2-3 years ago, and by 2018, so in 3 years, they'll have an airport for 150 million passengers. You look at Mexico City, which is building its new Norman Foster Airport, massive airport. So, and here we're talking, and I took these two examples on purpose, we're not talking about Dubai or Abu Dhabi, or we're talking about more regular countries who just decided, let's go all in and let's do a proper entry point for the country. And the UK were just not able to do it because the most optimistic estimates are if there's no hurdles, we should get the third runway by 2026. We're talking 11 years to have a third runway ready.
It's totally incredible. And I think now would be the time I thought that a government would be able to act with just kind of decisiveness, because they have just been elected in a pretty resounding manner to a second term, or at least for Cameron. So this felt like the point where they could say, yeah, we're going to do it. But they're being extremely cautious because they don't want to get themselves into any kind of legally binding statement at this phase. So they've said that they're going to study it at length and that nothing will happen, even in terms of an announcement on, yes, we are going to do this, until December.
Yeah, absolutely. Just one thing for those, because a lot of the debate comes of the noise that it generates over London, the pollution that it generates as well, and some of
those are not small issues either.
Exactly. And in the proposal, it's not only let's do a third runway. They say that all scheduled night flights should be banned between 11:30 p.m. to 6 a.m. That there should be a promise that the government will never, ever, ever build a fourth runway. That there will be a noise envelope, so there will be noise controls. Well, there already are noise controls in place, but something even more stringent. That there will be an aviation levy, so basically that airlines will have to participate in the price basically of that new runway, which, by the way, BA already said, IAG said that there's no way we're going to ever pay for this. But
all the money is coming from private finance. That's really important to point out. This new runway would not be financed by the taxpayer. The money is going to come from industry.
Correct. But apparently some airlines already, IAG said they won't pay a penny. I don't think they're actually against the third runway. I think they're just afraid that there will be a massive levy because Heathrow is not a cheap airport in terms of landing taxes.
No, it's one of the most expensive in the world.
Yeah, so I think they're just afraid that it goes even higher up because BA is the major, of course, user of that airport.
Absolutely.
Very quickly, it was interesting to see there was an article that I read that like you said, you can the only train link from Heathrow is to London because this airport doesn't lead you anywhere else. And then you can only fly to 7 other cities in the UK from Heathrow. And then if you look at Amsterdam, you can fly to 24 cities from Amsterdam, 24 cities in the UK, and that you can actually have a train that goes. So it shows that we're so behind that even Amsterdam is a better hub for the UK than Heathrow. This is insane when you think.
Yeah, it was a really interesting analysis. I mean, it was a bit tongue-in-cheek.
Obviously.
But they have a really good point because you used to be able to fly from most of the London airports to Manchester and the other big anchor cities in the UK. But now, as I discovered to my peril, you can only fly on one airline from one airport to Manchester from Heathrow. And the argument was, it's because there's a new improved train link between central London and Manchester, Birmingham, Liverpool, Edinburgh, places like that. But that assumes that you're in central London. Correct. Getting from Heathrow to central London is a pain in the butt.
Absolutely.
So it's not solved the problem. It's made it worse. And I think that's what that really well written and charming analysis comparing Schiphol and Heathrow was pointing out.
Yeah, and I think that there's no way, even if we only get the third runway by 2026, that's 11 years, and there's no way out. There'll have to be improvements at Luton, at Stansted. There'll have to be improvements at London City Airport. There's no way. There's no capacity.
No.
Anyway, moving on. Staying at Heathrow, because we forgot to say that last week. T1 is finally shut down.
This is sad. I don't know why it's sad, but it made me sad. When I flew out to Miami last month, we taxied past it, and there was, I think, maybe 3 or 4 gates still open, and the rest had already been kind of barricaded off, and the diggers were already
Yeah, you can
there.
see that, yeah.
It's sad because it opened in 1968. It's kind of it's part of Heathrow that's been there the longest, and those historical elements are slowly disappearing as Heathrow gets slowly modernized. But the cool thing about T1, even though it was kind of a crappy terminal, let's be honest, it was showing its age, but it had these walkways to the gates that were like space age steel tubes.
Yes.
That if you pictured what they thought a space station might look like in the 1960s, and there would be like 2 orbiting balls and then a walkway between the two, it looked like that. And it's just like, the round porthole windows. It was really kind of cute in a way. So it's sad to see it close. But the master plan for Heathrow is impressive and grand. Terminal 2 is great. Terminal 5 is great. So, you take the good with the bad, I suppose.
Yeah, I flew there maybe for the last time 4 weeks ago. It was from BA. It was only a few flights from BA. 17 destinations were flying. No, 17 flights, sorry, were flying from T1 until its closure on June 29th. That's the number I didn't know. There was only 1,700 passengers a day, which is why it felt so empty.
That's nothing.
It was amazing because you could go there and you would pass through security and everything and be at the gate in under 3 minutes because there was absolutely no one. So it was wonderful. It used to be my hub because I fly a lot of Star Alliance, which is now Terminal 2. And like you said, it's supposed to be Terminal 1 will be destroyed. Terminal 2 will eventually, because we don't know any timeline, expand and above what is now Terminal 1. So you'll have a larger Terminal 2, and this should go on. At some point, they will destroy Terminal 3, et cetera, et cetera. But I mean, this will happen by 95 or something, because
it's amazing to me, though, that they have the sheer gate capacity to shut down an entire terminal for this period. I know they added a lot with T5, and I know they added a lot with T2, but it seems, obviously they've done their planning. This is what they do for a living, but it was surprising to me.
Yeah, it was. It still is. But there's still gate capacity issues sometimes. I still land sometimes at Heathrow, and we have to wait because there's no gate available. So it still happens, right? The same problem we're discussing before. The same thing happens with the runway. The same thing happens with the gate. It's a very, very massive airport that is capacity. Transatlantic flights, very quickly. Ryanair has acquired a single Boeing 737-700. And speculation is rife that not only they acquired it, but apparently Boeing helped pay for it. Of course, Boeing might be interesting for Ryanair to acquire more, but the big question mark is, are they doing that on purpose because they're looking at how they will eventually do transatlantic flights? Do you have any take on that?
They claim it was for training, didn't they?
Yes, that's what they claim, yeah.
But it's a different model from what they usually operate. They usually operate the 800, which is higher capacity, longer, that type of thing. But the 700...
shorter range.
But shorter range, yeah, that's a very important point. The 700 is a longer range. It is capable of transatlantic flight from Ireland. So I can understand where that speculation came from. I am skeptical.
But honestly, I think if they were to do it, they will wait maybe for the 737 MAX, the new ones. But it's a possibility, because usually, for those who don't know, Ryanair buys a single type of aircraft. So for maintenance costs, it's the same. For training, they have a single aircraft, and that is why, obviously, when suddenly they change tune, people are like, oh, maybe they have a new plan and we don't know about it. So,
it is an unusual move, and it'll be interesting to keep an eye on that. They're quite a strange and secretive airline, but they did say at a recent conference, their chief commercial officer came out to support another airline, which is even more bizarre for Ryanair. They said that Norwegian, who have been trying to initiate transatlantic service to the U.S. to specific cities for years and keep running into DOT issues, Ryanair's chief commercial officer said that he thinks Norwegian is being unfairly frozen out despite playing by the rules. So he goes on to clarify that, saying, Norwegian are no friend of ours, but they are obeying the rules and they are still getting screwed over. That's it. And then he says Norwegian are playing by the rules. It's just in this case the rules don't suit the big guys.
Yeah.
That sounds like someone who has explored this market before.
Yeah, exactly.
And is reacting to a similar frustration.
Yeah. I mean, and we can't wait, either both you and me, that for some day a true low cost appears over the skies over the Atlantic. But
it would be great. I think it would do a lot for
competition
and for price. I mean, I don't know if I would want to fly Ryanair across the Atlantic, but that doesn't matter because it will put a lot of pressure
on the others. Yeah.
On the others to lower costs.
Absolutely.
Or improve service.
Or improve service. Absolutely. You're absolutely right. Quickly, I've seen, and I've sent it to you the other day. There was so Swiss releases a few videos, really pretty cool, well done on their YouTube channel. The last one was about welcoming the CS-100, which is a new Bombardier aircraft. And of course, as soon as I saw it, I was like, wow, yeah, they're finally getting it. Well, no, they're not. I mean, I'll put the link of the video so you can see it. But what I've learned since then is that they're buying 30 new Bombardiers, apparently 20 of the 100 version of this variant and 10 of the 800 variant, which is a slightly bigger one. So they're really betting a lot on the Bombardier flight. But since there's so much delays, and that explains why. And I don't know if you remember, Alex, I told you I think it was in the last episode, that I flew wet lease an Austrian flight because apparently these Bombardier were supposed to arrive this year. And they were supposed to replace the Avro aircrafts. And so now Swiss and other airlines are reporting the same thing, have an issue because it had planned for these new Bombardier aircraft to arrive. They're not there, so they have to have contingencies in meanwhile.
Yikes, that's not good.
Yeah, but I mean, that plane looks good, right?
I was just about to say the same thing. I think the one thing we can all agree on is it is a very attractive airplane.
Yeah. Absolutely.
It's got that new Dreamliner style nose.
Exactly. The nose is very good. Yeah, absolutely.
I'm excited to see it in person.
Yeah, me too. And there's, for those interested in seat mapping, if you look at the video, you can pause at some moment and you'll see what the seat map will be for Swiss in that flight.
So I guess the message here is to jump on an Avroliner quickly if they're going to get phased out pretty soon. Yep. I know CityJet use them a lot from London City, but I have a very soft spot for that airplane. So yeah. I better do a flight to Geneva or something pretty quick.
Exactly. So Greece, the Grexit, as we say. I mean, of course, Greece is still negotiating. We don't know if they're going to be out in the Euro or the EU. That's a big debate we won't have here. The one thing that is happening since the referendum and just before is that there are capital controls now in Greece. So there are basically the banks are there's almost no cash anymore, which creates immense amount of issues. A few which one is there seems to be catering issues at airports in Athens because they don't have enough stock to actually
I hadn't heard that.
Stuff like that, right? It's starting to happen because they cannot import anymore part of the things they need. And another one is apparently there's 32 airlines that have stopped ticketing from Greece. 32, that's a lot.
Wow.
We're talking about including Emirates, including the big ones, right? Because simply they just cannot ensure that they can actually make it work because of all the controls that have been put in place. And a nice gesture, Aegean is the major airline now in Greece. Yeah, they bought Olympic a few years ago, even if the brand Olympic stays. So they've actually started to refund no matter if you had or not, all the fare rules that usually sometimes do not allow for a refund. They started refunding a full price the flights because they know that people don't have any cash, so they will actually refund you in cash. If you live in Greece, it's a pretty nice gesture. I mean, it's not a pretty sight. Well, I hope. I might be going to Greece in a couple of weeks. I'll let you know, guys, what I see there.
I would be interested to know what happened or what is happening to that startup airline that we've covered in the past that was going to fill in the void in Cyprus, whether or not they're feeling any kind of fallout, because they were saying that a Greek link up was going to be really, really important to them. So,
absolutely. I don't know. I mean, I've heard all the stuff like of course, tourism is hit. Last minute tourism in Greece accounts for like 20% of the numbers in the summer. So apparently there's a lot of people, of course, now saying that they will not come to Greece because they're afraid of the uncertainty. And we've heard that also airline bookings are down more than 40%. So it's a pretty dire sign because, of course, the tourism is very important to Greece. So I hope
hugely important.
I hope it gets resolved. We'll see. So we won't have a show next week because you'll be away in holidays. So maybe in 2 weeks when we'll have our next show, we'll learn something. We'll see. In other bad news, Virgin, not America, but Atlantic, apparently.
Virgin Atlantic, I don't necessarily see this as bad news, but they're cutting 500 jobs. I mean, it's bad news for those people, and you never want to hear people losing their jobs. But they just announced profit last year for the first time in 3 years, and now they're cutting a layer of management. So this is not frontline staff. This is management in their headquarters and also in some outports. But 500 people. So they're trying to make the entire operation more efficient. And I think this is all part of Craig Krieger, who's a CEO, really reasonably new CEO, and possibly Delta's influence into trying to just make the whole thing run a little bit more efficiently. They've already committed to investing £300 million into the airline to kind of enhance the product because, to be honest with you and Frank, it was getting a little bit tired. So by the end of 2016, every single plane in their fleet will have Wi-Fi, and they are kind of really putting the axe down on some of these routes that just don't make any sense for them.
I didn't know that. And also they have the very famous plane, the 747 Dreamliner, right?
Yeah, the wonderful 747 Dreamliner, which I had a chance to fly on, which actually turned out to be 14 years old. But, they're the only airline in the world that's got one of those.
Actually, there was last night on ITV, there was this new show called Virgin Atlantic Up in the Air. So it's 3 episodes around Virgin Atlantic, obviously. So I've seen it last night. Have you watched it or not?
No, I haven't. I didn't even know about it until I saw it in your show notes today.
It was pretty fun. I stumbled upon it by accident, but it's nice. I mean, they show how they train the crew. They welcome the airline crew. It's for me the most interesting part where they showed some crash tests on the seats. So, how they choose the seats that should sustain a lot, crashes.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And it's pretty, actually, you should look at it because it's pretty impressive. And they showed also some, how they make the process of choosing the product. So when they chose the new seats for the Dreamliner, because they actually have the real Dreamliner, the 747 Dreamliner, the whole process and all the details they have to go into. So it was just a first episode. It will be 3 episodes. I know that a lot of you listeners are not living in the UK, though. Hint, hint, ITV is free to air, and free to air can be actually seen from everywhere in the world if you're smart enough. So there will be the next episode, the next, we were Wednesday today, so next Tuesday in the UK, and the third one after that. I'm pretty sure that it will be available somewhere because all these usually airport shows then end up somewhere online. But it's pretty cool if you like.
I wonder if this was in not retaliation is probably not the right word, but end of last year, I think BA had a very similar program on the BBC. So I wonder if this was a balance to that. I've never been a huge fan of shows like that, to be honest with you. The BBC 18 months ago did a wonderful thing called Heathrow Live.
Yes.
Where I spent 3 days there live broadcasting from Heathrow, looking at all the operational. Yeah, it was brilliantly done.
Yeah, that was great.
But these are all a little bit too soap opera reality TV
even that one, honestly. It was, I think I watched on the delayed channels. It was 10 p.m., so it was okay. I wouldn't have watched it in the middle of the day. But it's still fun. Honestly, I encourage you to watch it. I'll put the show notes where it's on if people want to see it. And then to the other Virgin, Virgin America. Bravo, because yet another award for you guys. You're not part of the airline anymore. Sorry, Alex, but I still consider you.
My heart is.
Yes. So Travel Leisure Magazine has given it the top airline in the US for 2015. In the 8th time in a row or something? 8th consecutive year. Wow. Best airline in the US.
In the US, which is great. It's and they've got 53 airplanes now with another good batch of them on the way as well. So they are becoming a very big airline.
Yeah, they are.
Which is great. So that they've been able to scale that quality is
it's
very
pretty cool.
Encouraging. So best of luck to them. Their stock is getting spanked at the moment, just like everybody else's. But
well, that usually doesn't really
correlate.
correlate always, right? Internationally, the number one is Singapore, number two Emirates. They always fight for the first two places. As for the airport, Portland, which we haven't covered yet, was named the best airport in the US. We should cover it one day. I've never been there.
No, neither have I.
And for international, first Singapore, second Hong Kong, third Amsterdam, fourth Zurich, and fifth Munich. So we covered pretty much all of them. Instead, just Zurich remains. So
Yeah,
there you go.
Changi, come on. There's no doubt.
Yeah. So, and by the way,
That's
for those of you guys that know, Alex is doing this travel show, a video called Attaché Travel. And the last episode is about Singapore, was just released on YouTube. You guys you should watch it because it's a really cool episode. And some of the stuff we said in episode 008 about Singapore are in there in the beginning. And you say that, the way you say how great the Singapore Changi is amazing. I think it's the first 3 minutes. So people, you should watch that. It's really cool.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, no, it was a fun episode. And it is a great airport. There's no doubt about it.
Absolutely no doubt. Back to a little bit rougher reality. So that crash had happened a few months ago. What was the name of the airline again?
TransAsia.
So
in Taipei.
So the report is out.
The report came out, and sadly, the pilot turned off the wrong engine, or he throttled back on the wrong engine after the other engine failed. And he said, on the cockpit voice recorder, you can hear him saying, "Wow, pulled back the wrong side throttle." And
wow.
Seconds later, the plane cartwheeled across a freeway, and unfortunately, some people were killed. But yeah, I mean, terrible mix-up on the flight deck caused, and this plane, the ATR 72, can fly and take off on one engine. So if he'd done the right thing, possibly, not definitely, we'll never know. This whole thing could have been avoided, but a real shame. And there's a rather sad footnote that in 2013, this pilot had failed a simulator test.
Oh wow!
Which is kind of a damning indictment of perhaps his. I mean, we can't sit here and judge. We don't really know the details.
We don't really know. Yeah, but that reminds. So it's another crash that we haven't covered. It has not been covered because obviously it happened in a lesser known country. So Air Algérie, so the company from Algeria, got a crash 3 weeks ago. It was an MD-83, so it's not the most brand new aircraft, but similar story actually happened. And I read the other day, the article I read is in French. I'll still put it in the show notes. So apparently the pilot, instead of pushing, accelerating the stall the plane was having, but what appears to be the result of not only the pilots didn't really know the aircraft because they were trained. They were Spanish pilots that were trained in a flight simulator in Spain with different kind of aircraft.
Oh my God. How is that even a
possibility? Exactly. So that's crazy. It was a wrong, this is why I wanted quickly to mention it, the wrong flight simulator. So of course, when there was under stress, there might have been a mistake. They pulled instead of pushing, but still, maybe they was not really fully aware what was going on. I don't know. I mean, it's just insane. Anyway. And you live news, because you just sent me that a tweet that apparently all the United Airlines are grounded in the US.
Yes, there was a tweet about an hour ago saying that United Airlines flights are grounded nationwide due to an automation issue, and they requested a ground stop to the FAA. And there were huge delays. It has since been resolved, and now their flights are airborne. But It sounds like it was a single point of failure in an IT system that caused it. And fortunately, United responded with their legendary world-class customer service. That's a lie. There were immediate reports of meltdowns at airports, gate crew walking away from podiums so they didn't have to deal with customers.
Wow.
But it doesn't sound like safety was ever compromised at any point. So they're back in the air. Everybody's hopefully going to be on time.
Talking about safety, you sent me an article about Jetstar that just got denied its license to fly. What's up with that?
So Jetstar Hong Kong, so it's one of those a subsidiary, regional subsidiary, and all of these seem to be so in vogue in Asia at the moment. There's, Air Asia Japan and Tiger Taiwan, and they're all sort of setting up regional affiliates of airlines. And Jetstar is a joint venture between Qantas and China Eastern, and they've been trying to get into to open up a base in Hong Kong for years, and through lobbying, I presume, by some of the larger, more vested interests in Hong Kong, Cathay, they have been denied that license to operate out of Hong Kong. And
is it what you're saying that this was politically motivated?
It feels like it. It feels like a little bit of protectionism. And if you read the letter of the law, Hong Kong's basic law says that the government can issue licenses to airlines that are incorporated in the city and use it as their principal place of business. And I gather that the point of contention was it's a foreign airline. It's just opening up an office here. And I was like, God, that sounds super familiar. So I was a little torn about this. But so Cathay have won this quote unquote moral victory, and they've kept out what could have been a significant competitor. But I think the industry at large is kind of like, come on, guys, what are you doing? That's not cool.
Yeah.
But for now, it's dead.
It's talking about dead because you just gave me talking about political motivation and death, actually. But it's obviously, we tend to mock sometimes what happens in that country. We're going to talk about North Korea. But it's not that fun because actually, so just tell us the story, Alex.
Very recently, Pyongyang Airport had a new terminal open, and there were pictures all over the news of this. And it looks okay. I mean, it looks like a reasonably modern new terminal, and of course,
I'll put link to the show notes. You can watch it there on Telegraph. Put some. It looks okay. Honestly.
Yeah, it looks fine. Pictures of Kim Jong-un going around on one of his typical photo shoots with his wife looking at the new terminal. Well, it turns out that he'd had the designer of the airport executed months ago for what was it called? Corrupt practices and failure to follow orders. But apparently the last time they went around, there were a few defects or designs that Kim Jong-un didn't like. And so he had the designer of the airport executed.
Oh my God.
Just extraordinary.
So do you think people are going to believe that he designed the airport? Was that the whole thing? Or he couldn't have it? Like, I don't know. It's just...
If it was perfect, he would have. But he said, quote, defects were manifested in the last phase of the construction of the terminal because the designers failed to bear in mind the party's idea of architectural beauty. So basically, the designer failed to read his mind, and it wasn't the same vision that he'd had, and so it was executed by the army.
So, by the way, we're sorry we're laughing because we know we're talking about somebody being shot. But I mean, stories like that coming of North Korea always like out of this world. It seems like you reading a James Bond book or something.
It's
just
crazy.
It just doesn't make any sense. Talking about not making any sense, we're moving into the innovation passenger experience part of the show, and not making any sense are apparently the British Air miles. So you remember last episode, Alex told us about his fantastic experience flying first class on British Airways to the US, and then using two other airlines, including US Airways, to come back. So the rest of the legs were on business. They call that first in the US, whatever. But apparently you had a massive issue since then because they won't just believe you had miles. I mean, tell us the story. It doesn't make sense to me.
No, it still doesn't make sense to me. I think they got me on a technicality that was not explained at all, let alone clearly explained. I flew a 4-leg trip on BA, US Airways, and American Airlines. They're all part of the same alliance, and American and US Airways are pretty much the same airline now. The ticket was on American paper, but 2 of the flights had BA flight numbers, even though only one of them was operated by BA. And I needed 2 flights, BA flights, to bump up to the next tier. So I thought, okay, well, there's 2 flights with BA flight numbers. I'll be fine. And I confirmed that with BA customer service on Twitter and then again at the airport that these were, because they had BA flight numbers, they were quote unquote eligible. So I got home after my excellent experience on British Airways that was really, really world class to find out that all of the tier points that should have been there were there. I had all my tier points, but it said I had only taken one eligible flight. I thought, okay, this happens all the time, so I'll just give them a ring and they'll sort it out. He said, no, you haven't done enough flights. You need to do one more flight. I was like, no, I did two. Well, only one of them was on British Airways. I said, no, but one of them, the other one, I know it was operated on US Airways Metal, but it had a BA flight number. And long story short, because even though it had a BA flight number, but because it was on AA paper, that was the kind of the bit that broke the whole process down. And there's nowhere anywhere that says that. If you ask for an official explanation of what an eligible flight is, it's one that has a BA flight number, and but which it did. But because that BA flight number appeared nowhere on my manifest, it doesn't technically count.
Honestly, I mean, it shows how complicated and complex these things are. But honestly, when you think about just a customer point of view, they just should make this thing damn simple. This looks like way too complicated because
it is complicated, and I thought I was being stupid, but the lady, a very kind lady on the BA customer service line, could sense my frustration and said, "Yeah, I see how you're frustrated, and I see how this would have been confusing, but here's the explanation that I've just gotten from the executive club team." And I was like, okay, well, I wish I'd known that because I would have done something slightly different on my routing, but it's not the end of the world. But as you say, that it's so complicated, not just with the US Airways American Airlines merger, but with alliance partners and single lines of tier in a one-off program like Executive Club. If it had been a one world thing, I think I would have already got it. It's 2015. We're still figuring out who writes the ticket.
Exactly.
Even though I went on 3 different airlines, it's a strange thing, isn't it?
I mean, we understand there's a lot of legacy here in here, obviously, but when you fly more recent airlines, they make that process also simple. And I mean, I always hear stories like that more, and I'm not bashing here, but on One World, people talk a lot about these stories, and I hear them less in Star Alliance. So I don't know, they should just get their act together a little bit more here, because it's just, I mean, I'd rather them making more difficult to people to get to the next tier, because it has become a game that is way too complex, and people just, like you said, not for you, sadly, but they just play on technicalities. It should be simple. You fly, you get miles, and you get tiers, and that's it. And if I understand that too many people are become freaking flyers, well, you just make it harder for people to get there, and that's it. It shouldn't be much harder than this, right?
Which they've actually done. They've redone
the program,
Executive Club quite substantially recently to do exactly that. So I think I was one of those really rare use cases that there isn't a necessity to clearly document. So
well, you're clearly a rare use case, Alex.
I hear that a lot.
So TripAdvisor doesn't allow you to yet rate airlines, but I recently read that TripAdvisor, for those who don't know, they have pretty good SEO. So you're pretty certain to have entered TripAdvisor in the past when you look for a destination for a hotel, because they have all these reviews about hotels. But, and it's very interesting, they will start now listing airports as well. So you'll be able, Alex, to basically review an airport. I think it's wonderful.
Yeah, it's a really, really good idea. And I think out of this will come a flood of tips and tricks and little interesting insights into airports that you're not going to find from somebody who's just reviewed a restaurant is now reviewing a hotel. I think you're going to get a certain type of person, i.e. you and me, who will go on there. And I don't know, I don't know if I'm inclined to share my secrets, but I think you're going to get some really, really good content out of this. I'm amazed it's taken them this long to do that.
And they're starting with Shanghai, of course, the easiest one, because
exactly, it's the easiest one to do.
Everybody will say it's amazing. They will go up to 200, I think, and all the 45 countries that TripAdvisor covers will have an airport there. So it's a
Nice.
nifty. I like it. Looking for. I will start reviewing airports on the thing there. I think I'll do it. And the the US one will be cubes, bland cubes, as I usually say. I can just copy paste my review for all the US airports. No, I'm kidding, guys. And you'll see why, because we'll come to that in a minute. But also, and very quickly, I've heard that TripAdvisor is now available in certain airlines on the IFE. So you are able to actually directly in the IFE to read TripAdvisor. Sadly, you cannot review yet whether it's an airport and a hotel or a destination there, but it's coming there. I mean, they really have I don't know, because they still have a problem because most of their profits are made outside because, they don't own the entire experience. When you book something, usually they lead you outside of their own website, but they have a very good grip of the review industry now for the travel. I mean, everything
they really do. Yeah, they own it. They absolutely own it. And I think as a result, it's become very middle of the road.
Yeah, a bit.
But it's good. It's and that IFE thing is a natural extension for them.
The UI could see a little bit of a refresh, honestly.
Agreed.
Yeah.
100%.
Well, yeah. And so to tell you that I'm not always bashing US airports, trust me, I'm not always. Fantastic. JetBlue is opening a new lounge on the top of Terminal 5 at JFK. And they have a rooftop, an open outdoor and open air rooftop that will have seating for 50 people. They will have a 400 square foot children's play area. And you will also be allowed to actually have your dog there. I think it's the first one in the world when you can have airside your dog in outdoors. I mean, it's pretty cool. Have you seen the pictures? It looks amazing.
Yeah, it's a really, really good idea. I mean, I'm always talking about the one in the Virgin Lounge at Heathrow at the clubhouse. It's this beautiful oasis that no one knows about. No one's ever up there. It's only me, which is great. It's not nearly as big or as grand as theirs, but there is something really powerful about having access to open space airside. Yeah. Because you kind of feel like you're hermetically sealed in when you've gone through security, like you can't get out. So it's very cool. They've done a fantastic job, and they're really owning JFK, JetBlue. I think they've done such a good job.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is fantastic. Just before I go on, it's not beautiful, but in Larnaca Airport, the lounge also gives you access to a terrace when you can do some plane spotting. So it's pretty cool. But coming back to JFK, so not only it will have views on the tarmac, but it also will have views on that TWA famous terminal of Saarinen. So you'll have a great picture opportunity to take that very fantastic building that's been laying out there. And wonderful. Talking about that, you sent me the other day, there's a video, there's like some people are trying to do a 360 video inside of that building.
Yeah, this wonderful video and photo tour of the abandoned terminal. Well, not abandoned is not the right word. It's just been kind of closed. There's nothing in there. And it's in amazing condition.
Yeah, it is, right?
Surprisingly good condition. And somebody joked in the comments that it's in better condition than a lot of the active terminals at JFK, which isn't too far from the truth.
Back to Europe, talking about passenger experience, Jet2, which is a low-cost airline here in the UK, is asking the British Air Transport Association and the Airports Operator Association, which are basically the two biggest associations when it comes to air travel here in the UK, to have a possibility to ban unruly passengers for life.
Good.
Oh, yeah, well, so basically we have an issue, especially in the summer for charter destinations or for holiday destinations. There's always stories in the UK, but also not only in the UK, but in the UK we're specialists in scenes of people being completely wasted in a flight and starting to be very unruly. And Jet2 has had enough and just say, you know what? I don't know if they go for like a 3 strikes or whatever is the exact proposal, but they want to basically say, you being unruly, you're never going to fly again.
Yeah, and it's dangerous, and people underestimate the effects of alcohol at altitude, and they, lose a little bit of control of their faculties, and then they do something stupid or aggressive or dangerous. And yeah, I think that they should have that power to ban them for life.
Yeah, well, at least have a strike system. I don't know, or maybe like a temporary ban. But I mean, I understand that this problem is. I've been lucky not to have that in a flight ever around myself, so it's nice. But when I read the stories, that would drive me nuts.
Oh yeah,
that would drive me nuts. Talking about the similar story, but not as pervasive, but operate extremely costly. There's a Russian low-cost carrier called Pobeda, which is a subsidiary of Aeroflot, which is a national carrier of Russia. And they want to ban chewing gum on board because they say that too many people are actually just sticking their chewing gums on the seats, and it costs them, and cleanup was costing the company up to, and I'm going to say that in dollars, $1,800 around dollars per piece of gum.
What?
Yes.
Wow, I had no idea it was such an issue.
Yeah, and so they want to ban. I don't know how they're going to ban them though, because I don't think there's a special X-ray to ban gum. But well, here you go. So they're coming closer to Singapore.
Wow.
Another little story. I want to test that out. This one I want to mention that here. So Stockholm Arlanda Airport, which I haven't been in years, has installed. It's temporary cubes in one of their terminals. When you can get, there's 3 doors. You can get in, and you can experience the temperature and humidity of other places in the world live. So
what a cool idea!
So basically, let's say you want to go to, let's put an example. You want to go to Dubai, which currently is 55 degrees Celsius. Theoretically, because there's a live data transfer, you get in there, you ask to feel like in Dubai, and you'll have 55 degrees Celsius. Alternatively, you could go to, I don't know, the North Pole and have like minus something. So,
what a great idea.
It's a fun idea, right?
What a great idea. I want to check that out.
Exactly. That's for me. I just want to, apparently, sadly, it's only there but to the end of August. So we'll have to find a way to get
Field
there.
trip.
Yes. Something that will rally you up, Alex. Lufthansa is introducing a new tax called a distribution cost charge, which basically means that every time you want to book a flight from Lufthansa of any of the groups, so Swiss, Austrian, and others, if you book them through their website, you're fine, so the carrier website, but if you want to book to anyone else, so through any of the GDSs, basically that's how they call it in the industry, you'll have to pay more.
That's ridiculous.
Well, I don't know. There's a huge debate about that. Obviously, the Sabres and Amadeus are all up in arms saying that's
of course. I mean, the airlines need those distribution channels. They need them. So to punish them and effectively punish the user as well is ridiculous.
Well, I don't want to make the debate long. I agree with you. The claim from Lufthansa seems for me a bit bizarre. They say the costs for issuing tickets via the GDS are several times higher than other booking channels. I don't see, even with legacy software, I don't believe that for a second.
Yeah, me either.
Quickly, Lufthansa is looking at drones. We showed last time that 2 episodes ago, I think that EasyJet was doing the same thing for maintenance, but Lufthansa is looking even further. They want to actually expand the drones into all their maintenance centers around the world, because Lufthansa not only Lufthansa Technik, how it's called, not only cater for Lufthansa but also for other airlines. So they want to basically find new revenue streams. So we're back at Lufthansa trying out new stuff. I've heard just before the show that apparently new strikes are coming up from the pilots soon. So we show that we're back from the peace after the Germanwing crash. We're again at the management trying to figure out how to make money, and the workers trying to go on strike. So drones, I don't know if they will ever yield money with that, but that will maybe lower costs for maintenance. They've also done since for introducing the next news, they've done actually a small kind of incubator accelerator in Berlin. So they want to see how startups, what they could offer. Talking about an airline we never cover, it's a Royal Jordanian, so from Jordan, has opened in its own also incubator accelerator with a local partner called Oasis 500. And they want to basically see what startups can do when it comes to frequent flyer program.
Yeah, it's a good idea.
I think it's pretty cool. They will apparently even invest in some early stage startups. So I think it's a cool idea. I will have to check that out. I've been to Jordan in 2-3 years now. I really want to know more about this. You hate that kind of news. Smart luggage. we talked. We talked about the Blue Smart, which was that luggage that got funded and now offers like a tons of stuff. There's a new one called Firefly. It's on Kickstarter. It offers you 4G and 3G Wi-Fi, Bluetooth locking, a battery, also like chargers and everything. I've looked at it. Have you taken a look at the pictures or not?
Yeah, it looks like a fridge on wheels.
Exactly. The metal encasing is a bit bizarre, right?
I just don't get the point of these. I mean, the more features they add, the more likely it's going to go wrong. Airlines are going to loathe them because they have a lithium-ion battery built into them, which they're freaking out about because they're fire risk. And we've talked about some of those stories.
KLM happened. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
KLM, it happens all the time. And I also think if you have expensive-looking luggage, that's the first thing that's going to get stolen. No one's going to steal my beat-up, crappy piece of luggage, but they're going to look at that and go, I know what that is. That's one of those newfangled things that sells for, $500.
And I wonder how it will make Frankfurt security freak out. As I told you last week, they asked me to remove every single piece of electronic equipment, including cables. So basically, if the luggage itself is an electronic equipment, I don't know what they will do. Will they like disassemble, trying to separate all the bits and parts? But I don't know. Anyway, I mean, good luck to them. They already have, I think, 10K of investment. The Kickstarter campaign just started. Why not, if you like these, just to give them a hand? But the reason I was saying that, I was talking about luggage, it was a big story that we didn't talk about. So the IATA, which is one of the bodies that regulates and recommends rules for the airline industry, came up, I think it was 3 weeks ago, with a label called ATA Cabin OK, which is basically a new, it was not mandatory because it's very important. It was a new recommendation of size of carry-on luggage. Mm-hmm. And every carry-on luggage that would have this specific size, which was 55 centimeters by 35 by 20, or in inches 21.5, 13.5, and 7.5 inches. That would have been the optimal, according to them, size of a carry-on. And they would have a small label, a logo on it, says ATA Cabin OK. And they started like talking to airlines and said, okay, would you introduce it to it? And actually it becomes a huge uproar. Why? Because if you look at the numbers of current size of carry-on, that carry-on is actually smaller. That proposed size is actually smaller than what most airlines, including low cost nowadays, are allowing inside their aircraft.
Wow.
So evidently, even though it was just a recommendation, most people took it as, oh, they're actually reducing the size of my carry-on. This isn't acceptable. Some others said, okay, this will actually give the idea of some airlines to say, if your carry-on says okay, and if you want to bring a bigger one, we're going to charge you for the bigger one. So basically, there was huge uproar. They backtracked. Although it was just a recommendation, I'll say that again. They backtracked and said, okay, you know what? We're going to go back to the drawing board and not say anything anymore about it for a little while. It shows that, we're very, that part of the boarding process is still something that creates a lot of anxiety. We don't want to get told what size we should, especially if it's a smaller one, right?
Yeah, it's one of those things that causes so much stress both for passengers and for airlines. The airlines want to minimize it so they can get their turnarounds faster and faster and faster. And passengers don't want to pay the checked bags fee, so they try and push to limits every single time. So
I think it was because it was done with airlines. I honestly believe it was not made in terms of only that. It was also say, okay, there's clearly a problem with overhead baggage. There's like not enough room, and they said there are some proposals, and Boeing have introduced some of the new oversized overhead bins, but maybe a slightly smaller size of carry-on would have allowed more carry-ons to fit. I mean, they're trying to figure it out, but obviously that didn't apply at all.
No.
And the worst thing is that apparently the IATA was actually, this is something that made a bit of controversy. Every single luggage, let's say Samsonite builds one tomorrow, every single luggage that gets that little tag, the little label, they would get. There was a licensing fee to get it. So,
cheeky.
So the IATA was getting apparently 35 cents out of every luggage made. So it's actually pretty hefty when you think about it.
That is, yeah. That scales nicely.
So this debate is not over, but they backtracked. It was never an obligation, but don't worry, guys. We'll still have to figure out which is the right size. I mean, it's honestly a problem because every airline is a different size, it seems nowadays. But I don't know. Anyway,
We'll actually have to do a segment. I think maybe this is even a video segment where we talk about our own personal packing preferences and our luggage preferences and stuff like that.
do you have a brand of carry-on that you usually take or not?
I don't have a brand, but I have like a very broad arsenal.
Oh, so it
available
depends on
to
your
me.
kind of travel. That's what you mean? Or?
Yes, yeah. I think I have everything I need for all types of travel. But Travel Pro, I think, are my favorite.
Yeah, me too.
They
Because
they do good work.
They're very sturdy, and they're not very fancy. They're not, which is coming to the point you were saying before. They're not the kind of luggage that attracts the eye, but they are very sturdy, and they're very small things, having two handles on each side. So basically, whichever way you put your carry-on in the overhead, you can still grab it.
Yeah.
It's pretty. I mean, I like it. I mean, also I have two sizes because again, long haul flights usually you have slightly bigger allowance than you have on short haul. So I want to have both. So yeah.
Yeah. No, me too.
But have you ever had for me, it hasn't happened for a while. Anyone ask you to put your luggage into one of these? At the gate, you have these kind of metallic, kind of, I don't know, fitting.
Yeah, they're kind of caged to
Yeah.
figure out what. No, I haven't been asked to have it measured in a very long time.
Yeah, I mean,
Although at Barcelona, when we were coming back, they scolded me for having a duty-free shopping bag and a backpack. Apparently, I had to put my duty-free shopping
in
bag
the backpack.
in the backpack.
So you only have two, right?
No, just one.
Oh,
Like I had a backpack and a duty-free bag, and they said, "No, you need to put this is on EasyJet."
well,
You need to put-
EasyJet really allows only one because some airlines allows two. They say you can have your carry-on plus a computer
personal item,
or pure,
yeah.
like for women, maybe a handbag or.
Yeah.
So sometimes that's sometimes the rule you're never sure about until you actually enter the aircraft and then tell you and you're
Yeah,
like, oh, come on.
I know.
Anyway, yeah, we should absolutely do that, a segment on that, and also how you pack, how you put your stuff in the luggage.
Yeah.
It's an art, right?
Absolutely.
Two more things. If we have time. So, we talked a lot about the IFE and how, we're moving to bring your own entertainment, your own device in planes. And there's this, I read that the other day, that this company in Asia that thought about changing. So instead of having a screen in front of you, on the seat in front of you or on the wall, you'd have a projector on your side that would project an image. That would allow, of course, it's lighter, but that would certainly allow to have a bigger screen estate in front of you because, of course, you can do pretty much a lot of stuff with it. And there's already interest. I think Hong Kong Airlines is actually interested. So what do you think about that?
I'm going to say this right now. This will never, ever happen in a million years.
Why?
Because you have, okay, so yeah, like you described it, you have these sort of wraparound headrest. Not going to happen in economy, too expensive to manufacture the seat to accommodate it. And even though they say the projector itself is half the weight, which is good, I mean, that's a fuel saving cost of a screen. Each of those screens is a computer, so you're going to have to put that computer somewhere to distribute the content. And have the remote to, because you can't have a touch screen, right? If you have a projector. So I just think it's it's so impractical. You move your hand, you put your head to lean over, and you block someone's view. It's not. When the cabin is all light during the day, they're going to have some pretty strong bulbs, which give off a lot of heat. I think it's totally impractical.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you. I just found it nice. If there's a lot of these stuff that appears online, like how the seat should be, and you look at it and say, yeah, right, it'll never happen. But I mean, the reason I wanted to mention this one is that he's like, actually, there's an airline interested, which I don't know, maybe they just have an interest and just gonna put that in the trash bin afterwards. I don't know why. Maybe there's a story behind it that we don't know who's the founder, what are the links with the airline or something.
Yeah.
Monarch. Have you ever flown Monarch, Alex?
I actually haven't. No.
Me neither. So for those who don't know, it's gotta qualify that it's a low-cost airline in the UK. It was a charter airline. I don't know if it's a low-cost or a charter, because since I never flew with them, I'm not actually sure. I think it's a low-cost airline, similar to EasyJet. So they have this kind of, you can see them in a lot of holiday destinations in Europe. If you ever come to Europe, guys, they have, the branding is mauve, I would say, color. And, usually these low-cost airlines are not very well known for their good passenger experience. Usually,
No.
so it's okay. So I've never flown them, so I cannot judge on their seats and et cetera, et cetera. But I was reading that they will release an Apple Watch app. Why not? Everybody does it these days, including EasyJet and others. But the cool feature on that one is that not only you'll have the usual stuff, like when is my flight departing, et cetera, but you'll be able to interact directly with the IFE. You'll have, basically it will become some
Which
kind
is
of remote
really
control.
cool.
Yes, it is, right? For
Really
Monarch,
cool.
I would have expected Emirates to come up with something like that, but not Monarch.
It's very cool that they've been able to do that.
They say that users will be able to order food and drinks, reorder with one touch, browse and order duty-free, check the flight process. I mean, there's stuff like that. But I mean, and they will still also be able to kind of control the content, so what you're watching currently. So, wow. I mean, I don't know.
Good for them.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool piece of... I still don't have an Apple Watch. I'm still not buying one, but it looks like a pretty nice piece of innovation there.
Yeah, yeah, this is a very good idea. It would be interesting to try it, see if it actually works.
By the way, for those living in the UK, Apple Pay is finally coming. Yay. So we'll be able to pay directly with our Apple Watch. We don't have one, but with our iPhones.
6, no?
And it will be interesting to see which airline in Europe will be the first one to accept it. No.
Yeah, absolutely.
Two small things, videos. First, Qantas, they've done this video of, it's a promo video, obviously, but they've done filming it in 360. So it's a camera you put and you have 360. And if you have a modern browser, YouTube actually shows you the entire 360. So no, you don't have to buy 25 screens that are in your head. You can just move your cursor and move. And there's a landing on an island in Australia called Hamilton Island. And it's really, 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 really cool to watch the landing. You can watch it like 10 times because, of course, you can choose your angle every time differently. You can watch the pilot, you can watch the actual landing strip, etc., etc. It's pretty well.
It's very, very well done. And I had no idea that YouTube had the capability of doing this.
I'm not sure it works in Safari. You have to use Chrome for sure.
Yeah.
Firefox, I think it works as well. But I'm not sure Safari yet. But anyway, it's pretty cool. Yeah, it's pretty well done. There was a few months ago, Robert Scobold had filmed Loic Lemaire in his own plane with a similar camera and having 360 experience. If I can find the video online, I'll put it as a show note link as well. You can watch Loic, who we both know, and Robert in the flight deck, basically flying the plane. It's pretty cool.
It's very cool.
And last but not least, another video, which is Pegasus, which is because I think it's the second biggest airline in Turkey.
Turkey, yeah.
They've released a new safety video. So we talked about, of course, you guys at Virgin have always done like amazing safety videos. They've been Air New Zealand, done some crazy ones. But this one is actually really, really cool because they've used basically comic superheroes to tell you the story. So you find Iron Man, you find all these Marvel comic superheroes in there, and they play around their superpowers, of course, with the usual stuff happens in planes. And the one I really love is, because I'll put the video, is when the flight attendant asks for people to quit their electronics. You can see Iron Man basically powering down his suit.
Yeah.
That's honestly, it's pretty cool.
It's clever. It's very clever.
It's very clever. I think I ran out of news, so we'll go to the airport of the week. There's not a lot to say about the airport of the week, so don't misunderstand me. Athens airport is a very nice airport. It's a very... when I say there's not a lot to say, is that it's efficient. I keep using that term for every single airport. But so the story is, before 2001, there was another airport, for those who haven't flown in Greece forever, there was another airport called Ellinikon, which was near the sea. And basically, you were flying, it's a bit like still London nowadays, you were flying over the city and landing there. And it was a disaster. An absolute disaster. CNN, the day that airport shut down, CNN wrote about how they won't miss the abandoned dogs and the armored vehicles in front of the entrance. And that was true, honestly. It was a disaster. So they moved. So basically, they did a private-public partnership. So basically, the airport was made by the Germans. Well, nowadays, obviously, everybody puts the Germans against the Greeks. It's not actually the case. So the Germans built the airport, and clearly it is. It has this kind of feeling of a very German airport. Means it's a cube, but a very efficient cube. So it's not up to Munich standards. It doesn't have to be because it's not as much of a layover airport, though there's a lot of connections to the islands, obviously. It has suffered in terms of passengers. It went, now it's I think at 15 million. It was on track to beat that actually this year, but of course with the current crisis, it might not. Again, very easy airport to get to. You get from the city. It's about 40 minutes because, of course, it's not a city airport. It's an airport that's outside the city. 40 minutes, roughly the same time with the train, though then you're not dependent on traffic. So, I mean, very good airport in terms of what you can do in the airport. There's not shopping, obviously. It's one of those airport, Alex, when you know there's a security is very close to the gate. So you have a lot of freedom before to actually do a lot of shopping. There's not a single point of entry for security, and then you get to the shopping area. You have a lot of shopping area that is open to everyone, and then you have basically two terminals: one if you are in Schengen, one if you're not. To make it simple.
I'm always surprised. I wonder if there's any data or studies done on the most efficient point in a flow of an airport to put security, because at Changi, I think because of all the transit, security is done at the gate. And
Right.
there's a few other airports I've been to recently.
Amsterdam is done at the gate.
Amsterdam,
Every single gate has its own security, which sometimes, I agree with you. I don't know if there's one better than the other. If you're on a layover, you already pass security on your first airport. It's honestly a pain to have to go through security again. You're like, guys, I haven't suddenly bought something that is illegal during my flight, right?
Yeah.
So you don't want it. But I understand that some big airports might need it in terms of design. Again, Athens in that case is not a very big layover airport. I mean, it is. I mean, you can transfer. There's a lot of transfers to islands, but
Yeah, I was gonna say within Greece is there a lot
so
of.
they don't. Maybe they. Don't,
I've never been there.
Maybe it's a case of balancing the who do we want to cater for first and foremost, to the layover passengers, to the passengers who are just entering, exiting. It's efficient. It's one of the airports I never had to worry about being late or delayed or having a lot of people at security, because that's one thing is that when you have the security close, it's not at every gate, but it's close to, let's say the security point usually caters for 5 to 6 gates. It usually means that you don't have to be too early, because there won't never be like these huge massive queues like in some airports where the half of like all the flights are catered for, through the same point of entry. So at least there's that. It seems, for me, it's never an airport I was anxious at. I just had, you go there and you know that you clear security pretty fast in any case. So it's, there's lots of shopping. There's a museum, but honestly, guys, so in Greece, whenever you do a new build, a new construction, wherever you dig, you'll find some site and some ancient stuff. So basically what they did is that everything they found during the construction, they put it in a museum within the airport. It's not that fascinating. If you like a museum, go to the one on the Acropolis. But if you only have a very short layover, why not? Though again, it's not that fantastic. Is it a good airport for layovers? Yes, it's a 24/7 airport. It's not really like there's a hotel next opposite the airport, but go ahead, Alex.
How close is it to the city?
40. Look, I've done it in 25 minutes by cab, and I've done it in 45. It depends on where you want to go. The train is not dependent. So there's a tube, like a metro. It's not depending on traffic. You have to make one stop over there, one switch of train. It's pretty okay, honestly. I always take a cab, but I also have a friend who's a cabbie, so I always I call him and just say, "Can you drive me?" And he drives me. So maybe I'm not the best person to ask, but I've heard people taking the metro. It's actually the Athens metro system is spotless. It's very clean. People have always I know it surprised people because maybe they have this bad image of Greece, but it's actually extremely clean, extremely well kept. So and it works really well. So I encourage you to take it because it's not expensive and it puts you almost everywhere in the city. So But cabs are also like there's a flat fee, I think, from.
From there. Oh, that's great. I love it when cities do that.
You know, and there's nothing else around the airport. Means you don't have like a short ride. The only thing is if you want to go to the island, sometimes there's a port called Rafina, which is very close. Which is instead of taking a plane, you want to take a ferry. Some of the islands are catered through there, so usually, and then you don't have traffic because Rafina is this very small port. So no, it's a nice airport. A bit hard to make plane spotting for those plane spotters of you, sadly.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I mean, it's there's not really like a place. There are, I've heard, I've never been able to find one, but it's not. Though it's a very open-ended airport, meaning it's really built in the middle of nowhere. So
speaking of the plane spotting, there are actually some great resources online for that, which we should explore maybe in the next episode.
Yeah, with pleasure.
Yeah. Guys and gals that spend a lot of time kind of telling you the best places to go at airports. It's a lot of resource there.
Yeah, and so I think that's pretty much it. Like, as you can see, nothing extraordinary about that airport, but nothing bad either. It's honestly, it's an airport that, again, it's Germanic, and I'm not saying that in a bad way. Trust me, guys. It's just extremely efficient, works. The purpose and the design is very clear. I never got lost.
It looks beautiful. I'm looking at pictures of it right now.
And it's also it's been very well kept. It's clean. It's a very, very efficient airport. I mean, it doesn't need to be Munich because it doesn't cater for that number of passengers. It doesn't need to be expanded yet. It will be maybe one day, but it's just honestly, you know, we always say that airports are a bit of the image of the country because it's the first thing you see in a country. When you see that airport, it's a pretty good sign for Greece, whatever the issues and the problems they have right now.
Good.
Last but not least, a little tip. So if you are on a layover, because sometimes you can be on a layover for a few hours there, meaning coming back to your question, Alex, you have time to go to the city and back. You can go Acropolis, of course. The museum is nice. If you have kids, and I know you, Alex, do, go to the zoo. I know it's not something that a lot of people know about, but if the zoo, they have an amazing really collection. I don't like the term collection when we talk about animals, but of birds. You go into cages and you have all these birds. It's really, kids love it. And again, it's, 30 minutes you're there, 30 minutes you're back. So if you have like 4 hours, it's actually worth it with kids maybe to do it.
Wow. That's a good tip. That's a great tip.
And on that, I think I've covered it all, right? You should.
I kind of want to go to Athens now.
I'll bring you there.
Yeah, let's do it.
We'll do that definitely. No matter the current issues. Yeah, no. For those people who are kind of wondering if you're traveling in the next coming weeks, it's true. Bring your own cash.
Yeah.
So of course the euro works, but bring your own cash are like cash straps in the ATMs. But I hope and I also trust that it won't last for long. Please come to Greece, guys. It's worth it.
Definitely.
And on that, Alex, I'll see you not next week, in 2 weeks, actually.
In 2 weeks. Safe travels, everybody.
Bye. Safe travels. Bye.
On behalf of Layovers and the entire crew, we would like to thank you for joining us on this podcast today. And we're looking forward to seeing you on board again next week. Flight attendants, please prepare for landing.